Pulsechain is going to be coming out relatively soon. Are you bullish? I'm going to run through how you could utilize your Pulse and liquid loans to actually increase your returns. Yeah, and I put together an example to show you, but first, if you think about, say, a house, and say, for example, just for easy math, the house is 100 grand. Then you buy the house with $5,000 down, 5%, right? And the house goes up by 20%. So you put $5,000 down. The house is now worth $120,000, right? You have a $95,000 loan. What happens to your bag? Well, now you have 4x'd your return. The market went up by 20%. House value was 100, now it's 120. Went up by 20%. Market goes up by 20%, and you 4x'd your return. You went from 5,000 to 25,000. Yeah, that's pretty cool, and that is what you're able to do with liquid loans. So, with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, it is good to freaking see you. Now, this is going to be awesome. So, if you're not familiar with what liquid loans is, basically you get free money in the sense of there's no interest and there's no payback period for the money you borrow against your holdings of Pulse. In that example where you have the house, right, and you put down $5,000 and then you get a loan for $95,000, that house is collateralizing your loan. So with liquid loans, you take your Pulse and you collateralize it and you pull some money out against it. So the house is backing up the loan, right? So if somebody defaults on the house, the bank gets if somebody defaults on the loan, the bank gets the house, right? So in this case, if somebody defaults on a loan that has a 0% interest and no payback period, meaning the only risk here is that the price drops, then they get the Pulse, but you already got your money out anyway. So that's the risk, but we're going to show you how to actually mitigate that risk in a future video when we talk about how not only can you use this to increase your returns, liquid loans, but you can also use liquid loans to reduce your risk in a different way. So that's going to be in a future video, but first let's talk about how you can leverage your return. So we put together two examples here, right? We have the leveraged section here and we have the regular return over here. Let's walk through each side of this so that you get to see the numbers and how it actually works. So this is assuming that somebody just doesn't have a lot of capital, $1,000, right? But we could change this to $10,000. We could change this to $1 million or 10,000, right? Or I'm sorry, 100,000, right? It doesn't matter what it is, but I think this is probably more relevant to a lot of people. Say Pulse is less than 1 cent, right? It's 0.001 cents. That means that you're gonna put in $1,000 and you're gonna get 1,000,000 coins. Now, say at some future time period, Pulse is now worth 1 cent, right? Perfectly plausible. Well, what does that mean for your return? Well, you put in $1,000, you got 1,000,000 coins, so that means you have a 900% return. And you currently have a bag that is worth $9,000. And all this is the current price times the coins minus your initial bag. So you actually have over this, you have $10,000, right? But this is just the profit portion of that. Now, 900% return, pretty fucking awesome, right? Well, look over here. What if you get 1,000% return or 1,300% return? The same exact thing happens, just like what we talked about, right? So let's walk through this example so you can understand. There's $1,000, same exact scenario. Pulse, same price, 0.001 cent. Means you get 1,000,000 coins. Now, you put that into liquid loans and you borrow 50% of that. So you've got a loan there for $500. this gives you a safety ratio of 200%. So what is the safety ratio? Let's go back here for a second. When you take out a loan, you can see this right here, a low collateralization rate. So that means if you have a little bit, 110% plus a penny of pulse in your account, then you're good. If it drops below that, then below 110%. So if your loan is $100 and you need basically $110.01. If it's above that, you're good. If it drops below that, which is very, very, very likely, right? If your collateralization rate is that, then you don't have your pulse anymore. Like how if you just stop paying, if I just stop paying the mortgage on this house, right? The bank's going to foreclose on me and they're going to take the house. It's the same idea that happens here, except for in the house example, there's an interest rate. In the house example, there's a payment. In this, there's no interest rate and there's no payment. So the only thing we have to be concerned about is the price fluctuation. So this, I'm not saying this is a good idea for you to do. I'm just going to show you the numbers, but we'll run a couple scenarios. So this is 200%. So if the price drops by 45%, so that means the price has to go from where it is right here at 0.001 cent down by an additional 45% for you to be at the safety ratio of 110%, where you're gonna liquidate, right? So this is the price of Pulse this is the price Pulse would have to be for your loan to be liquidated, right? Now, let's assume that in this example, the 500 bucks, we're going to go buy more Pulse, right? Because we're bullish Pulse. Remember, when we pull this up, we're like, are you bullish Pulse? Yes. So if you're bullish Pulse, you can do this to amplify your returns. We're going to switch this from, right, we're going to buy 500 additional Pulse with the $500 at this price here, right? This price here, because we're taking it out when the price is this much. And let's assume that the price goes up to 1 cent as we did over here, right? The price went up by 1 cent. So when that happens, now your profit is 14,000. So let's compare these, right? This is the leveraged return, and this is the non-leveraged return. Over here, you make $9,000 profit, plus you still have your capital. Over here, you make $14,000 profit, and you still have your capital, right? You make 900% versus 1,300%. A big difference. So liquid loans is a very interesting, useful protocol for people who really understand what is happening, because you can use this to increase the amount of money you make, assuming, like, so say, let's run some numbers here. Let's say this goes to 10%, or I'm sorry, 10 cents. Pulse goes from 10 to 10 cents. And let's say this is, somebody puts in $10,000, right? So that means you're gonna make $1 million over here, right? Because this is the profit, and you still have your $10,000 of capital. So you basically have $1 million from your 10, right? That's awesome. A 10,000% almost increase. Now, if we come over here and we do the same thing, right? We're going to start with 10,000, same as we did over here. Pulse, same price, but now we're getting 10 million coins, right? Borrowing 50% of that, that's a $5,000 loan. That allows us to buy 5 million more Pulse. And the price now is 10 cents, right? Same as it is over here. I just, programmed it all in here, so I don't have to change any of the numbers. So in this scenario over here, we make $990,000, right? From it going from 0.001 cent to 10 cents. In this example, we make $1.5 million, 1.5 million, and we make almost 15,000% versus 10,000%. Now, it wouldn't be prudent of me to show you how you can amplify your returns without talking about the safety ratio more. How often does the price drop by 45%? Not terribly often, but it does happen. right? Prices can drop by more than that. If you look at the price of Hex, a month ago, Hex was down 80%, right, relative to the high. So if we say if we set this at 80%, right, then that, because we know that happens every once in a while, right? This is not very frequent that it happens, right? About 80% drop. What if we change this to 15%? Where is this? So this, or let's say we can do 18%. Okay, so if we borrowed 18%, so we're in this example, we're reducing risk, but it's still going to increase return slightly. So we're still doing exactly the same thing, 10,000 bucks, but now we're just more concerned about the risk. Which, I mean, if you're putting in 1,000 bucks, I mean, you have asymmetric returns in crypto, so you like, I mean, risk is a interesting topic that we should do a separate video on because people are not like thinking about risk in the same sense that they would in the traditional like legacy finance world. But anyways, 10,000 bucks, right? You're going to borrow 18% of that, right? That's going to give you a safety ratio, an initial safety ratio of over 500%, right? Because you put in 10,000 and you're only borrowing 1,800. But this still increases your return by, let's see the difference. This minus this, $180,000, right? So you took your 18. This is free money, basically, right? Because there's no interest rate and there's no payment period. So this is effectively free money. Yes, there's a little fee. There's normally 0.5% to draw this out. So there is going to be a little bit of a cost to this, right? A little bit, but not like a regular ongoing cost. There's going to just be an initial cost on this. So this $1,800 that we borrow allows us to get 1.8 million additional shares, right? The price goes to 10 cents versus what we had it at, I think it was at 1 cent. That's going to generate another $180,000. So even though we reduce the risk, right, because we had this at 50%, we're at a 200% safety ratio. That means the price only has to drop by 45% for us to get liquidated. Now, if we go down to about, I think it was 18 or 20%. If we go to 20%, that's what it was. 20% gives us a 500 safety ratio, 500% safety ratio. Which that's great. That's fantastic, right? That means that the price, I think, comes down, what is it, 65% or something? 70%, 75%, 80%. So the price has to come down by 78%, close to the price drop in Hex, right? So there's probably a decent chance that this is not going to happen in one day where you have a single day drop of 78%, right? But you're like, you could plan this out so that if you see the price, if you have like, 2 weeks or 2 months of price coming down, right? You could change this in the sense of, adding additional capital here or hedging this position, which we're going to talk about in a future video, using liquid loans stability pool as a way to hedge this. And we're going to do the same exact thing, run the numbers to see what the returns are. But in this example, if you borrowed 20% and you borrowed $2,000 on your 10, you make an additional 200 grand versus just having Pulse and letting it sit there. 200 grand. That's pretty nice, right? If you found this video interesting or helpful, take a second and share it with somebody else would find this stuff interesting and helpful. And I have several other videos on the channel if you want to check them out around liquid loans or other topics and deep dives, also a very unique or different type of POV on this stuff. You can say what's up on Twitter. There's also a link below, or you can jump over to Instagram. I have a lot of fitness related stuff. There's another icon coming up over here, and I do a lot of fitness related stuff as well. So you can check out that channel. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon.